Hello, beautiful brains. Welcome in. The goal of my channel is to share with you my own experiences with integrating after ayahuasca. I want to help you do the same that I have done and make sure that you get the most out of your plant medicine experiences. Today, I want to talk about journaling. Journaling is one of my favorite practices, and it's not something that I took seriously until after ayahuasca. There are a million different types of journaling practices, different styles and techniques. So I do recommend that you explore this after your ayahuasca experience. Try different ones out and see if there's a particular one that resonates or that really hits for you. Each technique has its own sort of outcome or expectation, and that's why it's important to just experiment and play around. I'm not here to tell you that there's one particular journaling style that is the right style, but there may even be different times of your life and different experiences that make you want to use one style versus another style. Today, I'm going to share with you my 3 favorite journaling practices. So the first practice I want to mention is called the metacog. So metacog is a short form for something. So metacognition, meta means above or before, and cognition is your thoughts. So the idea behind the metacog is to help you look at your thoughts and how you act and react in a particular situation and help yourself break them down so that you can figure out where that thought came from. Is there a negative core belief that's fueling that thought or that reaction to that situation? Here is an example of a metacog. So you'll see that this type of journaling style allows you to break down particular parts of a reaction or an experience that you may have had. So you can help yourself examine the thought patterns that you have that sort of lead you to these actions or reactions. So take a look at your own behavior. How did you react in that situation? Did you say something? Did you walk away? Did you shut down? Have a look at your physiological response. Was your heart racing? Were you breathing heavily? What kind of thoughts were going on inside your head? Was there some negative core belief that was fueling that for you? So that's the idea behind the metacog, and I do like to use this practice myself, especially when I've had a very reactive or impulsive reaction to a particular situation. I always like to, now I'm getting really good at just stepping outside of it and looking at it objectively and sort of seeing what fueled that and where that came from. But this type of practice took practice for me to be able to achieve that, and it was things like the metacog, stepping back, having a look at myself and seeing how I acted, reacted, felt, and the different thoughts that I had that were fueling particular outcomes within my relationships and within my world. My next favorite journaling style, I like to call it freeballing. For some people, it's just open narrative style journaling. So it's just kind of writing down and recording different things that happen throughout your day, different things that you felt were important, that popped out, or that you want to mention. And the reason I love this style of journaling is that I'm really expressive in it. I talk about how things made me feel, even if I'm being very reactive in that situation and not stepping back and examining it in that moment, but I'll just write down the reaction here that I had. And I like to go back to these journals. So now I have a massive collection of them. And I like to review where I was. And now when I go back and I see the full picture of things, I can examine it and say, wow, like my ego was really smashed that day and I was really upset and triggered by that. It's just a nice way to get to know yourself. And the last style of journaling that I really enjoy and I do practice is gratitude journaling. This style of journaling is also really popular now, and you're starting to hear more and more about gratitude practices. There's lots to do with the brain and neurological richness around gratitude itself. But for today, let's just talk about the journaling practice. So what that can look like is spending a little bit of time at the end of each day and writing down the things that you're grateful for. And I've definitely supported people who don't feel like there's anything particularly big in their lives. If things aren't going well. And I challenge them to really sit back and see, can you even find gratitude in the coffee that you had for yourself this morning? And we can start with something as simple as that. So you're grateful for your coffee. You're grateful for a wonderful conversation you had with somebody. You were grateful that there was light traffic on the way home. And just sitting back and reflecting and allowing yourself to sit in the presence of this and really think about the things that are going well for you is such a rich practice for yourself. So why practice journaling after a life-altering experience like ayahuasca? There's a few reasons. One, it allows you to express and process the entire experience that you had. Maybe it was a heavy experience, maybe there's parts of it that you still don't quite understand. And sometimes writing them out for yourself, pen to paper, the understanding starts to come as you're telling the story to yourself, if you will, in your journal. So it's a nice little way to digest that information and get it out in front of you. And actually, because I took such great notes and I journaled a lot while I was on the retreat, I was able to actually write a book about my experience. So you can check out the link to that below or in my channel description. After your ayahuasca experience, it's important to continue to document things, to start to notice patterns in yourself. That's one of the beautiful things that ayahuasca does for you. It allows you to step outside of yourself and notice the person that you've become so that you can identify the areas that you want to grow because they're fantastic and you need to do more of that, and the areas that you need to change and the patterns that you want to break, the habits that you want to break. So when we journal, it allows us to be more reflective. There goes those talky hands again. It allows you to be more reflective and step outside of yourself and see and notice those patterns. So as I said, there's deeper ways to journal. So something like the metacog, there's freeballing it and then going back later and noticing those patterns that way. There's gratitude journaling just to help you shift your mind and focus on the great things that are happening in your life so that you can do more of that. And as I said, all of these practices are things that I do on a regular basis, maybe just not all of them all at the same time. It depends on what I'm experiencing in my life, and then I will choose the journal practice that evening. I do try to practice every evening. It's definitely something that I've improved and increased over time. I will admit, like any practice that I started to try to introduce for self-care and self-love, during my integration journey was a little rocky, all of it. So, you would start off with a week of doing things fantastically well, and then you would fall off for a few days, and then you'd start again for maybe one day, and then you'd forget for a month, and then you'd come back. So it was like that with every practice that I tried to introduce. So if that's happening for you, just know that that is completely normal and is completely acceptable. Stay the course and just keep powering through it. So another benefit to practicing journaling, there's some research now that shows us that journaling practices improve your brain's neuroplasticity. So your neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to continue to grow neural networks and to learn and change. So it's a fantastic process. Plasticity or plastic basically means that our brain is moldable or changeable. And so if we're practicing journaling, it's actually going to improve our brain's ability to do that. So how perfectly paired that is with coming home with a brain from an ayahuasca experience that's also rich and ready to learn and change. So marrying the two together is going to be like a superpower for you. So I do strongly recommend that you pick up a journaling practice. Try them out. Go easy on yourself. You can set limitations. So maybe the idea of writing out your entire day sounds incredibly daunting to you and it sounds like the last thing you want to do. So start small and tell yourself, okay, at the end of the day, I'm just going to write 3 things that I'm grateful for. And that's where you're going to start, and that is totally okay. One final thought for journaling. I've heard some fears that some people have about journaling. They don't like the idea of the permanence. And I've had some friends, jokingly or not jokingly, say to me, well, what happens when I go? Then all of the evidence is there. And I say, so what? You're not here, so who cares? But at the very least then, if it really makes you that uncomfortable, just promise yourself a fire and tell yourself that I'm gonna write this stuff down to allow myself to release it, to help myself emotionally. But in the meantime, I know that I can burn it later if I need to. So if that helps you be okay with the permanence and the practice of journaling, then tell yourself that and promise yourself a fire. All right, that's it for me today. As I always say, the most important relationship is the one with yourself. Be good to yourself. I'm not here to tell you that there's one particular journey. So neuroplasticity is your brains. We got a little bit on a rant. Anyways, I don't even remember what I was talking about, but